Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Jay with Scraps and Taps, and we're back to recap UFC London. FSAR Movsar Evloev versus Lerone Murphy. Yeah, I spent my Saturday. I know this London card always is early in the States, so I totally forgot that it was early. But you know where I was on Saturday, guys? I don't know if you heard of a little show called Hannah Montana. But my wife is a diehard fan, loves Hannah Montana, loves Miley Cyrus. So what was I doing for the love of being in love, guys? I was stuck in a line waiting for the Hannah Montana 20th anniversary pop-up in the blistering sun. And we spent about 5 hours in line. And you know what? I know a lot of you guys are going to say, damn, 5 hours, that's a lot. But you know what? I don't stand in a lot of lines for a lot of things, and this is very important to my wife. So we stood there the whole time, and we got all her pictures, and she looks gorgeous. I mean, it was so cool. It felt like I was hanging out with just a little version of my wife. She just turned into a little girl. It was very beautiful. But along with that, in that blistering line, I was able to catch none of the fights because I had absolutely no service. So while everything was going on, I was stuck. But anyways, y'all. Yeah, that was pretty fun. I mean, if you guys never grown up with the show, international pop star who it's a secret, and she goes to high school and has to balance her life. It's pretty epic shit. If you were growing up with that in Disney Channel, like, does anybody remember like they did a crossover with The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody? Yeah, those were the days. Yeah, but anyways, this Saturday, like I said, we had UFC London. And let's get started from the bottom. Campbell versus Silva. So the Pink Panther, and all this week they've been pushing out him because he's a London native, right? To come the Pink Panther, so they give him the pink shorts. And he was talking like he was going to win tonight prior to this. And he showed some promise in the first round. Silva was taking shots at his legs and getting taken and ends up getting taken down. And Silva has just very, very sound wrestling and is able to switch position and get up on top. And round one definitely was won by Silva with that pressure wrestling. And in round two is opened up with Silva blasting Campbell with a cannon of a right hand. I mean, it's like a falcon punch when you've put the beat down on somebody and they're like 200% damage on Smash Brothers, and they're like, no, please don't. And you
Falcon punch,
right, and absolutely put Campbell out on his feet. And he was protesting, but I mean, he was out, and the ref gave him every chance to survive. So Silva spoiling one for the Brits on the main card. Then we move on to our next fight, Dolidze versus Leroy Duncan. So Roman is doing great during the fight with the takedowns. He's really wrapping up the legs of Duncan with his arms, not doing like that old Khabib Dagestani handcuff with the legs, more with his hands, which is kind of weird, but keeping his back up to the fence. But Duncan is good at trying to stand up along the fence, and Dolidze is just smothering him like your great grandma on a cold, rainy night in '99, and you're impatient waiting for the inheritance. Anyways, Dolidze didn't even spin with that punch that just hit Christian Leroy Duncan. He just flung one. Oh, that was loud. He just flung one to the back and just hoped to God that it would hit, and it hits CDL and drops him to one knee, which is crazy. It didn't look like it hit him at all, but it was really quick, and Duncan just goes boop right into a knee. And Duncan is finally thinking like a lumberjack here, guys. He finally starts trying to chop at Dolidze's legs. And in round two, Dolidze is trying so hard to grab a leg, and it's so fucking weird. Like, who fucking does that, guys? I mean, especially that way. Like, how do you look like you're going to get knocked out? It reminds me of Ryan Hall. Every single time he would get hit, he would try to do an Imanari roll and try to get his jiu-jitsu. And what happened like that? He got knocked the fuck out by Ilia Topuria when he tried doing some shit like that. And he absolutely looked like he was getting flatlined every single time that he would try to grab a leg. And it wasn't even his leg. He was trying to grab his ankle in order to try to to make something happen. And it only happened one time during the fight where he was able to actually get down and try to grab a leg. And even then, Christian Leroy Duncan was able to step out of that. And Duncan is just taking full advantage at this point of Dolidze and starting to dance around a bit. He's feeling himself, Christian Leroy Duncan, and he's reaching his flow state. But he has to stay off the cage. That's where his kryptonite is. If Dolidze keeps backing him up, it was going to be a bad night for Duncan. And in round 3, Dolidze is just hoping Jesus would show up in the form of a back attack, and he just keeps spamming, tries to get an elbow, a punch in the back, and I think Duncan has very well aware that he needs to watch out when Dolidze turns his back on him, because he could get clipped by a punch. But Dolidze didn't do enough to get Duncan out in those the last 2 rounds. So I believe it was 2-1 Duncan. And Christian Leroy Duncan is probably looking to get a ranking by his name on Monday morning. And Dolidze is just going to have to go back to the drawing board. Then we get Austin Lane versus Iwo Baranowski. And honestly, from the second these two were matched, everyone was saying like this was a lamb being led to slaughter. And it was exactly that, because if you don't remember who Iwo Baranowski is, he was in that banger of a fight earlier this year with, I think it was either late last year, early this year, with Ibo Aslan. Had to be last year. With Ibo Aslan, didn't even last the full first round, and they were going back and forth, bloodied it up. And what do you know? Iwo knocks the soul out of Austin Lane in about 30 seconds with a 2-punch combo, a right that kind of gets him to shell up, and then a left that just puts his ass out. Austin, good for him. He was trying to say, no, I'm good. He was really upset getting up off the ground. But, I mean, Iwo has that insane one-punch power, right? My little cat. Insane one-punch power, and he's just durable, like we said in that Ibo fight. Right now, Iwo Baranowski must be on top of the world. Legit. My cat wants to say hi. Say hi. She doesn't really meow. She's my baby. She says Iwo Baranowski had the favorable matchup and Austin Lee should have won, and that was a late stoppage. Wow. That's fucking crazy. Psychotic, this one. Then we get Michael Venom Page versus Sam Patterson. So everyone was talking about this weird matchup between these two. Not only just because in the rankings they're weird, they feel like MVP should be fighting more known names, more people up in the rankings. So this was a very interesting matchup. But not only that, these two have trained together before, so they do know and are very well aware of each other's game. And guess what happened? MVP didn't want to charge in as often as he does, and Patterson wasn't going to step into getting into these long exchanges. He was more like getting it one and done. And not to Sam's, MVP is a good range guy, so he's going to be able to get in and out. So, yeah, and at this point, we need to call MVP the feint god, because he was even throwing these Taekwondo feints, like the 1, 2, 3, 4, front kicks and stuff like that. You only see that in Taekwondo, really. And like I was saying, if you look at it all, Patterson is fighting up, and he really needs to put it on to try to get this ranking away from Michael Venom Page. But like I said, it wasn't like Patterson wasn't trying. It's just really hard to try to chain these together when, especially too, Michael Venom Page is a great counter puncher, great guy who can put your lights out as he's moving backwards. Like he can throw a flying knee as you're charging forward, and it's happened many times. He's had so many highlights. But you don't want to chase, right? That's just, you're leaving yourself open. Venom can create so many angles. But really, MVP did what he had to do in order to secure his victory. And I don't know who they're going to give him that's going to be favorable at this point, because if he continues to fight like that, it's not going to be good, especially with a big pressure fighter who's willing to throw everything they've got into it. But yeah, like MVP is just a guy who's not willing to get hit. Maybe like a Dominic Cruz, he's not willing to take that damage. And MVP is getting old, so he's that style favors him in not getting hit. And it sucks because it did create this boring fight. I mean, you talk about only landing 39 punches in the whole fight together between you and your opponent. Not entertaining from any standpoint, not going to put butts in seats. So it really is just a win. It really is just a win. That's what it says. It's not a favorable win to get you anything or put you favor in Dana White's eyes. And we all know that Dana and Venom Page have not been on the greatest of terms so far. So, I mean, we'll see how this continues to go. We get Riley versus Aswell, and man, these boys are getting after it midway through the first round, throwing some nice shots back and forth. And Aswell's pressure to get him to the cage is a very, very smart after a good flurry of exchanges. And Riley hits Aswell in the body. That gets all those Brits excited. Even got the booth excited for a second. I think they got both guys to go, wow! But it really just Aswell rolled through and it hit him in the body. But Riley seems to be getting the better of those exchanges in round two with not much control for Aswell like he did in the first. I mean, like I said, getting Riley to the cage is important to cut off. It's a good way to reset, but also to work your offense if wrestling is your strong suit. And then the third is Riley just shows really, really exceptional cage defense. And I think all those attempts has zapped Aswell's arms and is taking the power away from the punches, because once Riley was getting away from the cage and Aswell seemed like he was trying to throw some heat, I mean, Riley is just eating those punches like nothing. And both of these guys, I mean, I give it to both of them. These two guys did both have a fucking chin on them. And both are durable guys. I think Riley is... Look, Aswell is very, very smart. He could have rode that the whole way, trying to do the same thing. But Riley was getting keen to it and just continuing to wrestle up, looking for that shot, coming after the exchanges when he gets close to the fence. And he knew he was not going to lose that way today in that fight. And, this fight is making Riley 13-0 in his pro MMA career, undefeated. And now he's going to be getting some big names probably coming his way. And with him being such a perfectionist, like he said in his post-fight press, his post-fight interview, he seemed like he hated that performance. And as a perfectionist, I can only imagine what a stellar performance looks like if it's not a knockout or a finish. But, man, I expect big things from Luke Riley. And he's also being coached by Paddy the Baddy, one of the best in the division right now. Just fought for the interim title, lost unfortunately, but I mean, again, the guys coming out of Paddy's gym are insanely durable. Now our main event, Lerone Murphy versus Movsar Evloev. I mean, Evloev looks like a fucking super soldier in toy form. I mean, it's fucking insane. And I also wonder why they do have Lerone as the B-side in his home country. I feel like that's kind of odd, almost like weird superstition, trying to set him up to be like the loser side almost. I don't know. I'm looking into it too deep, but both tentative to start. And Evloev opening up with these big overhand rights, and Evloev taking most of the center of the octagon in round one. Evloev, he reminds me of like a cat when he got right up from getting his leg caught from a kick that Murphy caught, and both are just eating the heaviest shots. I mean, they both are throwing heavy, and it's like me after smoking a J, and that's exactly what I look like, destroying a munchie meal at midnight. Delicious. And Lerone, during much of this fight, he had so much success opening up with the leg kicks first. If he kept setting up the leg kicks and then start the flurry of the punches, I think it gives Movsar a chance to parry the kick, but not expect the 1, 2, 3, 4, because Lerone was absolutely getting the better of him when he was starting off with those kicks. And Evloev is finally starting to settle in for a takedown and manages to get him down just for a teeny tiny second before Murphy was able to just get up and get off. And at the end of round 3, we get some fight turning offense from Mosar. This is where I think the fight sorry. This is where I think the fight starts to turn a little bit here. And in round 4, Mosar goes for the ultimate hit. He goes for the nutcracker and loads a hard-ass leg kick to Larone's nuts. I mean, it was brutal. It looked like nasty. And good job on the ref. I think it was Herb Dean, and takes away a point from Mosar because that was the second low blow from Mosar. And, you know, now at this point, Mosar seems like he needs a finish. And at this, you know, round 4, Mosar is able to start implementing the wrestling a bit more, is able to get Murphy along the cage. And as Murphy gets up, he's able to kind of step behind him and get him down. And dude, Mosar looks so strong. He looks like he's able to like kind of help him fall a little bit as he's crushing him down into the ground. And I think now at this point, it's the end of round 5. And we're going to the scorecards. I think it's 3-2 for Murphy at this fight. You know, I watched it, and Murphy's kickboxing is good. Obviously, those rounds in the beginning, Mosar is taking the center of the octagon very, very, very much, but not landing not landing a lot of punches, just kind of landing like the heaviest ones. And even then, it's not opening up Lerone until the end of the fight, where he's getting cut over his eyebrow and the damage is starting to show up. I thought, you know, he could have maybe took the second round, maybe the third, maybe the second round, and you could have gave the third to Lerone. But if anything, I don't know. I don't think it was a robbery like people are saying out there. I think it was just a close fight. I think it was two guys that didn't really open up with a lot of offense in the beginning. And then the definitive 2 rounds were the wrestling by Mosar at the end of those 2 rounds, really getting control, showing the damage on the face of Lerone. And at this point now, Mosar is 10-0 in the UFC, and it's hard to deny him for a title shot. And it sucks that we live in this, but you know who's waiting in the wings, licking his lips right now? Is fucking John Silva. And the big question is, can John Silva totally fuck the most deserving contender in the division right now and slide in for a title shot? I mean, he's been waiting the longest. He literally had to fight the number 2 guy. He had to fight like maybe 2 times in a row in order to get up here, when everybody was already saying that these 2 guys should be, and the 2 guys are Lerone and Mosar, should be fighting each other, should have been fighting for the title already. One of them should have been. You know, and if this happens, I think 100% the rankings are dead. There's no fucking way that you can come back from this and justify giving John Silva a title. Like, that would be the greatest tragedy in the whole featherweight division. What do you guys think? Do you guys think John Silva was going to come back and slide in for this title shot, or do you think it's going to be to the most deserving Mosar? I've already seen the post-fight presser saying that maybe Mosar doesn't deserve the shot. So it's already getting this murky, already denying from Dana. So I'm...
Yeah. I mean, again, you know, I'm not even thinking about that. The fight just ended. But yeah, obviously he's in a great position.
Very, very interested of what's going to be going on next. And like Volk says, he'll fight anybody. So why not the number 1 guy? We got some news from Mr. Anthony Showtime Pettis. And he's not coming for a boxing fight. He is coming back to the cage, and it's And let me tell you something, y'all. If you guys don't know who Anthony Showtime Pettis is, you have seen his world famous Showtime kick when he stepped off the cage and he knocked the fuck out of Benson Henderson and literally started a craze. And that's when Showtime became a star. Now,
and Steph and I cannot think of a better way to bring down the curtain.
Oh my goodness! Did you see that? He ran off the wall like a ninja and landed a high kick. Unbelievable! I've never seen anything
he
like
was the
that.
UFC, was it lightweight champion, I think, at some point? Damn, he was all over the place. Welterweight, lightweight, and featherweight. Jesus. Man. Winning his title back in December 15 of 2010, back in WEC, by defeating Benson Henderson. Wow. So he must have been like the featherweight champion. But yes, you've seen him everywhere. He was the first MMA fighter on a Wheaties box. I mean, he was probably the best role model for a champion at the time. I mean, he was a handsome guy. People loved him. The way he spoke about the sport, very respectful. I mean, he was a picture perfect champion. And he was flashy. He was willing to fucking get into a war. He was willing to go toe to toe with anybody. He was willing to stand and trade with anybody. But yeah, he's making an announcement. And if you want to see the amazing Anthony Pettis, you will need to book a flight, right? A flight, and not anywhere in the States, baby, to beautiful Kazakhstan. So get your shop on dry cleaned and your takia and Timex dusted off for Orda Global Fights. And it's a debut, and they put one of the greatest stars of all of MMA. And yes, Showtime Pettis may be a little old, but he won his last boxing fight. And I mean, come on, it's the debut. Pettis' last MMA fight was in 2022 in the PFL. So, and his other fight was probably like 2024 or something in boxing, if I'm not mistaken. And who's his opponent? It's nobody you've heard of. His opponent is Adil Boranbayev, a 23-13 fighter coming off one loss prior to this fight. Let's see. Boranbayev, his early career, he was going on a tear around 2015. His record gets spottier after that, but has a very well-rounded game, finishing by many ways. And I know they're setting up Anthony so nice over there. They must give him like a plot of land and is taking some financials over there. He may be a dignitary now. He may be a Kazakh dignitary right now. And I know he runs his own promotion, and maybe he's taking this fight to open up more avenues for his fighting championships, that his organization, so that it can grow and he can get international fame. Because we see other bare knuckle in Serbia, all these European all these other ones. So guys, are we booking our flight to Kazakhstan to go see Orda Global Fights 1 and see Anthony Pettis may or may not lose? I mean, it's crazy. But good luck to Showtime getting back in the cage. I mean, man, he's made some headlines before. Can he make another one by defeating Adel Boranbayev at Orda Global Fights 1? Anthony, we're cheering for you from the States, bud. So I'm not sure about you guys, but to all my cards players out there, I'm a new fan of poker. And if you guys also want to watch some fun poker, just FYI, and you're into comedy, go watch The Fold on YouTube. Anyways, we had the Celebrity Poker Tour, and it was making its way through Las Vegas. And we had a whole list of UFC fighters join that poker tour. on one table, and they include all these guys in this picture. And in the beginning, Chris D'Elia and Bryce Hall. And Bryce Hall makes sense, right? He's done some bare knuckle shows. He's really made the walk, so I get that. But seeing Chris D'Elia, the groomer comedian, who's building up his fan base again there, just really gave me a chuckle. Because at the table, I see him looking around, and it almost feels like he's looking to get the fuck out of there. I mean, he looked like he was shaking in his boots, literally. Whoever decided to put that, my hat's off to you, man, because Chris is just looking super like, man, I don't know, maybe he's fucking whatever the fuck he does. I don't know what he does outside shit. But I mean, not a good look for the groomer to be at the UFC table, which anybody can fuck him up in 30 seconds. And we had Jamal Hill looking like he went to the same guy that they did in Rush Hour to get some suits.
No, wait a minute, no. This ain't no couple thing, man. We police officers working a very dangerous case and we need clothes.
Yes, there are a lot of men chasing us.
Well, they should be. Listen, you have nothing to worry about, okay? Because I'm going to turn you two into the belle of the ball.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Let's start with you, shall we? You got the mochaccino face, wonderful skin, and the big broad shoulders, okay? Let's put a dead animal on you. Croc skin, buttercream, croc skin, buttercream. What size is the waist? Let's go in. I want to...
Hey! Watch his sweetness.
He's got some fire to him.
Honey, cups.
I like that.
Go get the clothes.
Okay, I'll pull some items. Ooh, jeez.
But he was playing some good poker, I must admit. He was able to bluff Bryce Hall when he didn't have a shit for a hand. On a $69,000 pot, I mean, come on. That's some good poker right there. Colby Covington being the most quiet I've ever fucking seen him in my entire life. But I do know Covington plays some serious poker, but he will not take a serious fight. So come on, Covington. Make up your mind already. And Paulo Costa, legit, looking like future Bruce Banner on his day off. Like, I mean, he had the same fucking button-up shirt he does. And I know he's also played in this tournament before. He looks like he really knows what the fuck he's talking about when he talks about poker. Like I said, Bryce Hall, he's a guy I would like to see more in the fighting stage because he was talking that shit. And I think he's actually very good on the mic. And he was getting the table fired up. I also believe he is a degenerate gambler as well. So I can only imagine how far he would continue to make if he was to continue to fight and get these sick ass promos like he was trying to cut on the poker table. And guys, I'm just loving Aljo in this whole tournament. I mean, he's also done this one too. I think he played in like a paradise one in the Bahamas or something. So again, Aljo also takes this seriously. And I feel like Aljo's always been that financial guy, always talking about money, putting investments and stuff. Every time I always stumble upon like a wild Aljo clip, he's always talking finances, money, where to do this. So he's a really smart guy. So I can only imagine that this is also a way to make money. And if he's really good at it, obviously he's pretty good at it. He did, like I said, he played in that Bahamas tournament from the same Celebrity Poker Tour, and he ended up winning the tournament, which is insane.
Our newest champion, Aljamain Sterling, and of course the owner of CPT, Blake Wynn. Aljo, let's start here. How'd you get it done tonight? Why was tonight your night?
I was drinking some Funk Harbor, you know. It had me feeling good and some great competitors, but honestly, I was just following the wave, trying to follow patterns as much as I could, and, you know, sometimes it's just luck.
That's awesome. But, I mean, I can tell that my man Aljo knows how to party. And, like I said, and play. I mean, he was so good at antagonizing people and drawing them in. And I mean, he was just pounding Funk Harbor. I mean, it was so fun to see these guys outside of here. I mean, Aljo, he's pushing the Funk Harbor hard. I mean, look at this picture here. I know, my boy, I want to go to the fucking Bahamas with Aljo. I know. I need to get me a bottle of that Funk Harbor. I need to get sent one immediately. I mean... And we had Mackenzie Dern, who seemed kind of new to the poker stage, but she was looking absolutely stunning definitely out of camp. Dern looks real healthy out of camp. And I'm sad that they just aren't pushing her enough in the UFC, or even if she has a fight. You know, she's so personable, and it really showed on the table. I mean, it was so fun to see her like just have fun and, you know, like just be with all these other UFC fighters. And, you know, I feel like her division right now is you know, it's kind of fucked up right now. Also, it's very slow moving division, and so it's good to just see her and kind of get her name out there. She is the champ, I mean. And Cejudo coming back on this, he's still chatting that shit. It's amazing. He just knows how to get under these people's skin. But he does continue to make these weird, like, self-hating Latino jokes, which makes me again realize he is like a Latino for Trump. But Cejudo, besides that, is good at playing cards. And yeah, I do also forget that he's an Olympic gold medalist. So probably America means a lot to him and his family. So I get it. But, I mean, Cejudo is just a little ball of fire. What can he say? He was just fucking fired up at that poker table, drinking his little Michelob Ultras, probably getting him buzzed as fuck. But the last two to survive at the table were Dern and Covington. I also forgot that Cheeto was on here. Cheeto was on the fucking thing, but it wasn't really much for Cheeto. Cheeto wasn't speaking so much, and I don't know. It was just it was between two tables, so there was like it was a table full of like NFL players and people, and then the UFC. So they all played to try to get to the final table. But the only two to last was Dern and Covington. They were like got eliminated like in the same hand, which is crazy. And I feel like this is all what fighters need to do to go get themselves some more fans. That was just fun, enjoying watching them play, hearing them talk about other bullshit other than fighting. Like I said, no beef, no bullshit. Even when it did get a little fun, I mean contentious, it was still fun because these guys are playing with money. You know, money gets a little blah, blah, blah. So yeah, you know. But I would love to watch just a place where UFC fighters go and talk fights and play poker. I think that'd be so fun. Nobody take that idea. When I get big, I'm going to have it. I'm going to have a long form poker UFC podcast. Yeah, that's going to be sick. Well, guys, this weekend we have Adesanya versus Pyfer in Seattle. That is going to be a banger of a fight. I mean, I hope. Let's see. Oh. All right, we got our main event, Israel Adesanya versus Joe Pyfer. Oof. I mean, like I said before, it is Adesanya coming off that loss to, I think it was Dolice, which Dolice got beat the fuck by Duncan this go around, versus Joe Pyfer. Ooh, I mean, that's a tall order. Joe Pyfer is looking pretty good, and he's a very, very much pressure fighter. And if Israel can't find a way to cut the angle on Joe, it could be curtains for Adesanya. But if Adesanya can find his range and get Joe Pyfer to bite on these feints, and you know, maybe if Adesanya goes for the kicks and takes away the gas tank from Joe, it could be looking good for Israel. Alexa Grasso getting back in there versus Macy Barber. Michael Chiesa versus Nico Price. Woo! So two legends, two vets going at it. Oh, that's going to be a good fight. Ooh, oh man, Michael Chiesa has many ways of finishing this, so I can only imagine. All right, I'm not even going to say it. Julian Rosa versus Larianne Douglas. Mansoor Abdul Malik versus Yusri Belgarui. Terrence McKinney getting back in the cage versus Kyle Nelson. Guys, that is next week, and oof, that's going to be a good fight right there. Well, that's going to be all for me, y'all. I hope everybody has a great week. I'm going to try to get this out. I swear to God, I'm going to try to get this out by Tuesday morning. If not, you'll see it in the edit that I fucked up, and you'll know it's not Tuesday morning. I'm not gonna edit it out. I'm gonna hold myself accountable here, guys. But anyways, everybody take care. Have a good day at your job, whatever the fuck you're doing. Y'all, so take it easy. This is Jay with Scraps and Taps, and we'll be back here for Adesanya versus Pfeiffer when that comes to an end. Peace.